Hello everyone, this is Gabriel again, and for our fourth and final episode in this tutorial series, we will be focusing on converting turtle files into ontology diagrams. So the past three episodes have been focused on converting our diagrams to turtle files, but today we'll be focusing on the vice versa, which is the opposite way. So for those who might not know, CEMENTO is a package that allows you to convert your Draw.io ontology diagrams into turtle files, and vice versa. And if you're interested to learn more, the first episode of this series, I go over all of the features that are key to CEMENTO. And on the second and third, I go over how to draw a diagram and convert. Today, we'll do the opposite. To start us off, we'll actually be working with a file that's been familiar with us throughout this series. As you can see, this is a simple taxonomy for different types of vehicles that basically just says that me, Gabriel, I'm a person, and I'm driving a Toyota Camry. But this isn't the file that we're actually interested in. We're interested in the file that this generates, the turtle file that we've created in a previous video. And this is what you see here at the moment. You can do a quick check and see that amphibious vehicle, boat, and drives are still there, and they contain information that makes sense that still corresponds to our diagram. Now to convert this into a Draw.io is very simple. Just like before, we use the subcommands, but instead of Draw.io to turtle, we go turtle to Draw.io. And if you want a help message, you see that these are the options available to you. And apparently, this program also works the same way as Draw.io to turtle. Provide two positional arguments, input and output. And here you have several options that we will be discussing throughout this video. So let's get started. CEMENTO turtle Draw.io. We'll take our draw tutorial as input, and we'll output it as draw tutorial 2, just to distinguish the files. So you run that. We'll run one without options to kind of serve as a base case and see what it generates for us. So for here, I go ahead and open tutorial 2. You can see it actually generated a decent visualization for us. So note, we at the moment don't add colors to these diagrams. You're obviously free to change them because this diagram is now yours, right? And if we abide by our principles discussed in the last episode, you see that instances are still dashed lines and literals are boxes. And CEMENTO already does that for you. But for colors, we're still looking for a scheme that fits our purpose. And so far, we found that a lot of people prefer to use different color schemes and different division schemes for their colors. And we created a kind of a hands-off approach when it comes to color choice. Everything gets converted to one default color that you change later. So just looking at this diagram, the type still makes sense. I am still driving to Toyota Camry, which is good. And this roughly corresponds to the diagram that we've had as an input in the first two episodes. So one thing to note though is that this particular feature is still under development, and you can see some missing things. For instance, this MDS drives is actually missing its type object property. And this is because by default, we're trying to remove all the default terms from our diagram just so it's less cluttered. But in this case, I think it would be prudent for us that in an upcoming release, we accept object property just so this drives has a type that wouldn't result the class. Now, that's it for the base case. Let's see what else we could do with this command. If you look through the options, you'll see I also have a horizontal graph option here. And what this does is it essentially inverts your tree so it becomes horizontal rather than vertical. So instead of going top down, you go left to right. Let's go ahead and give that a try. And if I go back here and synchronize, you now see it's vertical instead of horizontal. Another thing to note is some of these arrows need work, and we've implemented an algorithm that tries to convert them in the right direction, but somehow Draw.io just ignores it. We'll figure it out in an upcoming release, and we'll let you know. But for now, this suffices because it still reflects the original file that we have. But now instead of a top-down tree that we saw previously, we now have left-to-right trees, like so. And this is useful, especially when you have a very big tree If you want to visualize CCO, for example, or PMDCO, it will be tedious to scroll horizontally like this, infinitely in both directions. People are more accustomed to vertical, and so that option is there for you. Now, what else can we do with this? So if we look at our help page again, you see you can also do classes only. And this is building on what we've mentioned before with visualizing large graphs. You might prefer to just keep all of the classes instead of the instances. So for example, here, we prefer to keep all of these gray rectangles instead of these instances right here. And this might be to reduce clutter. Maybe you just want to make a taxonomy diagram. What makes this powerful is you can actually combine these two options together. And so if we go back to our previous command and add CO, you see that this file is both vertical and now only has classes, right? And CEMENTO actually does well in visualizing very more complicated ontologies like CCO. And so let's give that a try. I have the CCO ontology right here. That's already a draw IO from a previous step, but if we look at its input, cco.turtle, you can see that this is very long. It has so many different relationships, object properties, named individuals even, and a lot of classes. And this file can go on to about 19,750 lines. And so going through these lines and navigating it might be a bit more tedious. Maybe if you're, let's say, creating an ontology and you want to figure out the hierarchy tree, a visualization would be nice. So let's go ahead and convert that turtle into a visualization. So what works best for these kinds of tasks is a combination of horizontal and classes only. And now instead of tutorial, you reference CCO turtle directly. And in this case, we want to generate a draw IO diagram to kind of overwrite what we already have. So now that that's good, we'll go ahead and open and see what that looks like. So if I go to open and I open CCO.drawIO, zoom out, you'll see it produces a nice taxonomy tree like visualization for us, where all of the classes and subclasses are clear. So if I have a plan, for example, I can trace these arrows and see that the plan is actually a directive information content entity. And I can keep going with all of these different types of terms and see that, yes, on the same level, I also have designative information content entity and ideology religion. Okay, so that's it for CO and HZ. The last interesting feature we've recently introduced is the marquee boxes. And to explain to you what that is, I'll just go ahead and run that on our tutorial file. And that's draw tutorial. So going back to our old file, now it's the same because we haven't added the flag. Now let's go ahead and do that. As you can see, now we can divide the classes and instances in two different boxes, air quotes. And the T box is where all the classes are, and the A box is where the instances are. And this is useful when you have a lot of object properties that you want to represent, and you don't want these classes to get in the way of these object properties connecting to each other. And this is a convention, and this is also why, as I've discussed in the second episode, we want to exempt A box, T box, and lines, just specifically for this notation. So as you've seen, Draw.io already generates a layout for you, so you don't have to manually add these all the time. And as you can see, even for trees without instances, it knows enough not to put anything there. Okay, so one other thing I want to show you, because this might be something you want to try, is to demarcate while plotting horizontally. Now, as you can see, this doesn't work. And it's because it's a combination that we're still trying to resolve. So if that's something you're interested in, you'll probably have to wait until the next release. But we are aware of the issue and we're trying to fix it. Okay, so that's it for visualizations. Remember, all of the output that we generate here is a valid CCO input. Sorry, is a valid dry Cemento input. And because of that, you can keep infinitely generating one turtle into a Dryo and Dryo into turtle and iterate as much as you want. Now, there are limitations to this approach. As you've seen, some of the properties are still missing and we're still trying to figure out these bugs. And if you can help us out and figure out these bugs, we'll make sure to implement these fixes as soon as possible. So that's it for Cemento. If you do have more questions and if you just want to read more about it, friendly reminder that this is the documentation, has a lot of information about the package and how to use it, and this link will be in the description below. You'll see API references, FAQs, about, and changelog as well to keep track of what we fixed. So now one note about API reference is we're still in the middle of adding all of the annotations to all of our functions. So we apologize if you see some of these don't have types yet, but we will get there slowly. This code base is about 2,000 lines long and it's only growing by the day. And so if you have any questions, refer to the FAQs. And if it's a problem with the package, report, just like I mentioned before. So that's it. Thank you so much for being part of us, taking part in this tutorial series and for listening to me. This is a very new thing for me, so apologize if I make some mistakes. Uh, Things about our package is found in the About page, and we just wanted to mention that this package would not have been possible without the many numerous collaborations we make across different national laboratories. I started this project back when I was an intern in Argo National Laboratory, and I worked with another intern who was working in Lawrence Livermore, Priyan, and out of this, we got a package that kind of resembled what we have now, but with far less functionality. And now that we had time and we had the ability to recalibrate, we now have a package that you could use to convert your draw.io to Turtle. So if you find this useful, citation information is on this page, and so is the project license. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope this explains what Cemento is and what Cemento does. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the comment section below. And if they do close the comment section, please open up an issue if you think it's related to our package. So thank you so much, and you have a good day. I hope Cemento helps save time for you to make all of the ontologies that you need. Amen.